The alien ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Arcturus system, its sleek hull gleaming in the light of the distant sun. Commander Jack Harlow stood on the bridge of the Confederation vessel Seeker, his eyes fixed on the main view screen. "Scan. Complete, Commander," said Lieutenant Lisa Graham, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "We've located the object that triggered our long-range sensors." Jack leaned forward in his command chair. For weeks, the Seeker had been tracking unusual energy readings in this abandoned sector. The Confederation Science Council believed they might have discovered an ancient alien artifact, perhaps even technology from the legendary precursors. "On screen," Jack ordered. The view screen flickered, and there it was. Not the alien relic they had hoped for, but a ship. A human ship. It drifted silently against the backdrop of stars, its hull scarred and weathered by centuries of cosmic radiation. "Magnify," Jack said, unable to hide his disappointment. The image zoomed in, revealing more details of the derelict vessel. It was large, at least a kilometer in length, with obvious weapon emplacements along its hull. The design was unmistakably human, though of a style Jack had only seen in historical archives. Zalthrak, the Mardarian tactical officer, made a dismissive sound through his breathing slits. "A human warship," he said. "Primitive technology. Not worth our time." Jack shot the alien a warning glance. Though humans were now rare in the galaxy, they were still respected members of the Confederation. "All discoveries have value, Lieutenant." Lisa looked up from her console. "Sir, I've identified the ship. It's the USS Dauntless, a Valiant-class warship from humanity's early expansion era. According to our records, it disappeared during an exploratory mission about 200 years ago." 200 years? Zalthrak scoffed, his scaled skin flushing with blue amusement. Their weapon systems were barely more than nuclear-tipped missiles and laser arrays. They wouldn't even dent our lowest shield settings. Jack ignored him. "Life signs?" Lisa shook her head. "None that I can detect, but there's still power in the ship's core. Very faint, but it's there." "Interesting." Jack stood and straightened his uniform. "First contact protocols are clear. Any human artifact must be investigated and, if possible, preserved." "Sir," protested Zalthrak, "this is hardly a significant discovery. Our mission was to locate possible precursor technology, not salvage human garbage." Jack fixed the Mardarian with a cold stare. "That garbage represents an important piece of human history, Lieutenant. And while your people were still fighting, with energy spears humans had already mapped half the galaxy." Zalthrak fell silent, properly chastised. The bridge crew carefully avoided looking at him, knowing how sensitive Mardarians were about their relatively recent entrance into the galactic community. "Prepare a boarding party," Jack continued. "I'll lead it myself. Lieutenant Graham, you're with me, and Zalthrak, you too. Perhaps you'll learn something about human garbage." 30 minutes later, Jack floated through the airlock connecting the Seeker to the Dauntless. The human ship's artificial gravity was offline, forcing the boarding party to rely on their magnetic boots and occasional bursts from their suit thrusters. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness of the dead ship. "Main power is offline," Lisa reported, consulting her scanner. "But I'm detecting minimal systems running on emergency power. Life support is inactive, but the hull integrity is remarkably good for a ship this old." They made their way through silent corridors, passing crew quarters and common areas that looked frozen in time. Personal items floated aimlessly. A book, a coffee cup, a child's toy. "They had children on a warship?" Zalthrak asked, catching the small stuffed animal with a look of confusion. "The Valiant-class vessels weren't just warships," Lisa explained. "They were colony ships too, designed for long-term exploration and possible settlement. Entire families lived aboard." Jack's light illuminated a sign on the wall. "Bridge, Deck 1. He gestured for the team to follow. "This way. If we can access the ship's computer, we might learn what happened." The bridge was a large circular room filled with antiquated control stations. View screens, long dead, lined the walls. A commander's chair sat in the center, empty. "Primitive," muttered Zalthrak, running a four-fingered hand over a console thick with dust. Lisa connected her scanner to what appeared to be a main terminal. I'm going to try to access the computer system. It might take a while to interface. With such old technology, Jack nodded and continued exploring the bridge. Something about this ship felt wrong. If it had been abandoned, why were there no signs of evacuation? No missing escape pods, no distress beacon. It was as if the crew had simply vanished. Sir, Lisa called suddenly. I'm detecting a power surge from deep within the ship. It's coming from, I think it's the main computer core. Before Jack could respond, the lights on the bridge flickered to life. The ancient consoles hummed, displays blinking as systems began to reboot. A holographic projection suddenly appeared in the center of the bridge. A woman's face composed of blue light and shifting code. External access detected, the face said, its voice eerily human. Unknown entities aboard. Initiating security. Protocols. What is that? Zalthrak demanded, drawing his sidearm. Some kind of AI, Lisa said, her voice filled with wonder, but far more advanced than anything humans were supposed to have 2 centuries ago. The AI's gaze seemed to fix on Jack. Identify yourselves. Jack stepped forward. I am Commander Jack Harlow of the Galactic Confederation Vessel Seeker. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration and discovered your ship adrift. The AI was silent for a moment, as if processing. Galactic Confederation? This political entity is not in my database. Where is the United Earth Navy? Where are the colonies? Jack exchanged a worried glance with Lisa. The United Earth Navy hasn't existed for almost a century. Earth itself was... He hesitated. Earth suffered a catastrophe around 80 years ago. The AI's expression didn't change, but the code swirling within her form began to move faster. This information requires verification, initiating full system reactivation. Throughout the ship, lights began to come on. The hum of machinery grew louder. Lisa's scanner began to beep urgently. Sir, something's happening in the lower decks. I'm detecting thermal signatures consistent with cryogenic pods. They're warming up. Cryopods? Jack repeated. Are you saying there's crew aboard? Alive? Deep within the ship, in a sealed chamber protected by multiple security measures, hundreds of cryogenic pods began their awakening cycle. In one of them, Chief Engineer Alan Murphy's vital signs began to stabilize as the suspension fluid drained from his pod. His eyes opened for the first time in nearly a century, confused and disoriented. The ship's AI, designated Hannah, spoke soothingly into his pod. Easy, Chief Murphy. You've been asleep for some time. I need you awake now. We have visitors. Back on the bridge, Jack felt the subtle shift as the ship's artificial gravity came online. The floating debris around them gently settled to the floor. The hum of machinery grew louder. We should return to the Seeker, Zalthrak urged. This vessel is activating weapons systems. No, Jack said firmly. We stay. First contact protocols are clear. If there are humans aboard, we need to establish peaceful communication. The AI watched them with its unblinking gaze. Commander Harlow, I must inform you that you and your team are now considered guests of the USS Dauntless. For your safety and ours, you will remain here until Captain Montgomery awakens. And if we choose to leave? Jack asked carefully. The AI's expression remained neutral, but there was no mistaking the threat in her words. That would be unwise. The old Relic, as your officer called us, still has teeth. Chief Engineer Alan Murphy sat up in his cryopod, coughing as the last of the suspension fluid drained from his lungs. His muscles ached from nearly a century of disuse. The medical bay's soft lighting helped ease his eyes back to awareness. Hannah, he croaked, his voice rough. Status report. The ship's AI appeared on a nearby screen. Welcome back, Chief Murphy. You have been in cryosleep for 97 years, 4 months, and 16 days. The Dauntless has been boarded by unknown entities claiming to be representatives of something called the Galactic Confederation. Captain Montgomery and the command crew are still in cryosleep. Awakening protocols have been initiated. Alan swung his legs over the edge of the pod, wincing at the stiffness in his joints. Hostiles? Unknown, Hannah replied. Their actions do not appear aggressive, but they attempted to access restricted systems. I have contained the boarding party. On the bridge. Alan nodded and reached for the uniform that had been prepared for him. Wake up Security Chief Wilson and Dr. Porter, and get the command crew into pre-awakening cycle. On the bridge, Commander Jack Harlow was growing increasingly concerned. It had been 30 minutes since the AI had confined them, and his attempts to contact the Seeker had failed. The ship is jamming our communications, Lisa Graham reported, closing her portable scanner with frustration. And I'm detecting significant power surges throughout the vessel. Whatever was sleeping here is definitely waking up. Zalthrak paced nervously, his clawed feet clicking against the metal floor. I knew this was a mistake. Human technology is unpredictable. They never followed proper engineering protocols. Jack shot him a warning glance. That unpredictability is exactly why humans were such valuable allies before the Vrul came. He turned back to the AI projection. Hannah, is it? We mean no harm to your crew or vessel. We simply discovered you adrift and investigated as per Confederation protocols. The AI's expression remained neutral. Your explanation is noted, Commander. However, security protocols cannot be overridden without proper authorization. Please remain where you are. The bridge doors suddenly slid open. 3 humans entered wearing crisp blue uniforms that Jack recognized from historical records as United Earth Navy. 2 men and a woman, all armed with sidearms that, while old-fashioned, looked perfectly functional. The man in front, tall, with graying hair and deep lines around his eyes, stepped forward. I'm Chief Engineer Alan Murphy of the USS Dauntless. This is Security Chief Ben Wilson and Dr. Karen Porter. Jack straightened. Commander Jack Harlow of the Confederation Vessel Seeker. This is Lieutenant Lisa Graham and Lieutenant Zalthrak. Alan's eyes widened slightly at the sight of Zalthrak's alien form, but he quickly regained his composure. Hannah tells me you claim Earth has suffered some kind of catastrophe. Explain. Jack hesitated, looking at his fellow officers. How do you tell someone their home world had fallen decades ago? Perhaps we should wait for your captain. Captain Montgomery will be awake shortly, the woman, Dr. Porter, said. But we need to understand our situation now. Jack nodded reluctantly. About 80 years ago, a species known as the Vrul launched a surprise attack on Earth and its major colonies. Earth fell within weeks. Most human colony worlds were targeted in the following years. The Confederation formed partially in response to the Vrul threat, bringing together surviving species to present a united front. Alan's face had gone pale. And humanity? Scattered, Lisa said gently. Small populations survive on remote worlds or as refugees on allied planets, but as a major power, she trailed off. The silence that followed was broken by Hannah's voice. Chief Murphy, Captain Montgomery is now awake and requests everyone's presence in the command conference room. Meanwhile, aboard the Seeker, Commander Samira Cole paced the bridge anxiously. Still no contact with the boarding party. None, Commander, reported her communications officer. All channels are being blocked by some kind of quantum interference from the human vessel. That's impossible, said the science officer, a slender Silverian with luminescent skin. Human vessels from that era had no quantum technology. They were limited to standard EM communications and basic subspace channels. Cole frowned at the image of the Dauntless on her view screen. The ancient ship no longer looked quite so derelict. Running lights had come on along its hull, and there was a subtle hum of power that her sensors were now detecting. Tactical analysis, she ordered. The vessel appears to be powering up various systems, reported the tactical officer. We're detecting energy signatures consistent with shield generators and what might be weapon systems, though they don't match any known configurations. In our database. Options? Cole asked. We could attempt to cut through their hull with our phase beams, suggested the tactical officer. Extract our people by force. The science officer shook his head. Not advisable. We don't know what might trigger their defensive systems, and if humans are actually alive on that vessel, it would violate at least 6 Confederation protocols. Cole nodded. Maintain position. Keep trying to establish communications, and prepare a second shuttle with a security team. just in case. In the Dauntless's command conference room, Captain Eliza Montgomery sat at the head of the table. Though she had only been awake for 30 minutes, she carried herself with the authority of someone completely in control. Her short gray hair framed a face that, while aged, showed remarkable strength. "So," she said after Jack had repeated his explanation about Earth's fall, "humanity has been reduced to refugees scattered across the stars, and this confederation now governs what was once human space." "Not exactly," Jack clarified. "The Confederation is a cooperative alliance. We don't govern space so much as protect it collaboratively. And what was human space has largely been taken by the Vrul." Captain Montgomery's eyes narrowed. "And where are these Vrul now?" Lisa answered. "They control about a third of what was once the human sphere of influence. They're held at bay by Confederation forces, but it's a stalemate. Their technology is formidable." Zalthrak, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. "Which makes this encounter all the more curious. What is a human warship from 2 centuries ago doing here, with a crew in cryo-sleep? Your vessel was reported lost nearly a century before the Vrul even appeared." All eyes turned to Captain Montgomery, who exchanged a glance with Chief Murphy. "The Dauntless was more than just an exploratory vessel," she finally said. "Our mission was classified, even within the United Earth Navy. We were sent to investigate anomalous signals from this sector, with orders to maintain complete radio silence." "What kind of signals?" Jack asked. "The kind that suggested someone was testing weapons," Montgomery replied grimly. "Weapons that could destabilize space-time itself. We found the source, but it was a trap. Our ship was damaged, many crew killed. We put the survivors into cryo-sleep while Hannah effected repairs, and we drifted, conserving power. Dr. Porter spoke up. But we never expected to sleep for nearly a century, or to wake to a galaxy where humanity had fallen." Alan Murphy had been studying something on a datapad. He looked up suddenly. "Captain, the Seeker is preparing to launch another shuttle, armed by the look of it." Captain Montgomery's expression hardened. "It seems your colleagues are growing impatient, Commander Harlow." Jack reached for his communicator before remembering it was being jammed. "They're concerned for our safety. Let me contact them, explain the situation." "Hannah," Montgomery said, "prepare to receive their shuttle and power up the defensive grid, just in case." "Captain," Jack protested, "there's no need for—" He was cut off by an alarm blaring throughout the ship. Hannah's voice came over the speakers, her tone now urgent. "Captain, long-range sensors have detected 3 vessels entering the system. Configuration matches historical records of Vrul warships. Every human face in the room went pale." "How did they find us?" Alan whispered. Captain Montgomery rose to her feet. "It doesn't matter. Hannah, battle stations. Commander Harlow, it seems. Your Confederation is about to see what this old relic can really do." The bridge of the USS Dauntless hummed with activity as Captain Montgomery strode in, followed by Commander Harlow and the others. More of the crew had awakened now, moving with purpose despite their long sleep. The old ship was coming alive around them. "Hannah, full status report," Montgomery ordered, settling into the captain's chair. The AI's blue form appeared beside her. "All essential systems online. Shield generators at 87% capacity. Weapon systems powering up. Engines ready. 32 crew members now awake and at their stations." Lieutenant Lisa Graham stared in amazement as the once dark bridge lit up with holographic displays and control interfaces, far more advanced than she had expected from a 200-year-old vessel. "This technology," she whispered to Jack, "it's not consistent with historical records of human capabilities from that era." Jack nodded grimly. "I'm starting to think the Dauntless was more than just an exploratory vessel." On the main view screen, they could see the Confederation ship Seeker, still holding position nearby. Beyond it, at the edge of the system, 3 large shapes were approaching, the Vrul warships. "Communications are being jammed," reported the Dauntless's communications officer, a young man named Peter Kelly. Not by us. It's coming from the Vrul ships. Captain Montgomery turned to Jack. Tell me about these Vrul. Weaknesses? Tactics? Jack stepped forward. They're aggressive, highly territorial. Their ships use polarized hull plating that adapts to energy weapons. Conventional weapons are largely ineffective. The Confederation has managed to hold them off using quantum phase torpedoes, but even those are losing effectiveness as they adapt. Montgomery nodded. Chief Murphy, are the special weapons systems operational? Alan Murphy looked up from his engineering station. Q cannons are at 60% and climbing. We can fire in 3 minutes. Zalthrak's head swiveled sharply. Q cannons, what are those? No one answered him. Captain Montgomery was focused on the approaching threat. Hannah, open a channel to the Confederation vessel. Use their frequencies. The AI's eyes flickered briefly. Channel open, Captain. Confederation vessel, this is Captain Eliza Montgomery of the USS Dauntless. We have detected 3 Vrul warships entering this system. We are powering defensive systems. Suggest you do the same. On the Seeker's bridge, Commander Cole received the message with surprise. They're warning us. About what? She turned to her tactical officer. Scan the system perimeter. 3 large vessels approaching at high speed, he reported seconds later, his voice tight with alarm. Configuration matches Vrul war cruisers. They'll be in weapons range in 6 minutes. Cole's face hardened. Battle stations, shields up, prepare quantum torpedoes. She turned to her communications officer. Signal the Dauntless. Tell them to fall back behind us. We'll handle the V-Rule. Back on the Dauntless, Captain Montgomery received the message with a wry smile. They want to protect us, the old Relic. She glanced at Jack. Your commander is brave but misguided. Hannah, bring us alongside the Seeker. Extend our shields around both vessels. Captain? Alan Murphy questioned. Our shields aren't fully charged yet. They'll hold, Montgomery said confidently, and it will give us time to finish powering the Q cannons. Jack moved closer to Montgomery's chair. Captain, what exactly is this ship capable of? Those Q cannons you mentioned. Montgomery met his gaze steadily. The Dauntless was a prototype, Commander. The first of what was supposed to be a new class of defensive vessels. Earth's leadership had detected early signals of the Vrul incursion, decades before they actually attacked. We were sent to investigate, equipped with experimental weapons. Weapons that might have saved Earth, Alan added quietly. The ship's engines engaged, moving the Dauntless smoothly alongside the Seeker. A ripple of energy flowed from the human vessel, extending around the Confederation ship. On the Seeker, Commander Cole watched in astonishment. They've extended some kind of shield around us, her science officer reported. It's like nothing I've ever seen. The energy signature is, I can't even classify it. The V-Rule ships are powering weapons, the tactical officer warned. They'll be in firing range in 1 minute. Cole made a decision. Open a channel to the Dauntless. Captain Montgomery's face appeared on her view screen. Yes, Commander. Whatever you're doing, I hope it works, Cole said. The Vrul don't take prisoners. Montgomery nodded. We know. Stay behind us when the firing starts. The connection cut off and Cole turned to her bridge crew. You heard her. Take up position. Behind the human vessel. The Vrul ships were close enough now to be visible without magnification. 3 massive blade-shaped vessels with pulsing red energy flowing along their hulls. They're charging weapons, Peter Kelly reported on the Dauntless. Shields at maximum, Alan Murphy added. Q cannons at 92%. Captain Montgomery's fingers tightened on her armrests. Hannah, target the lead vessel. Prepare to fire on my command. The first Vrul ship fired. A beam of sickly green energy lanced out, striking the Dauntless's extended shields. The shield rippled but held firm. Shield integrity at 83%, Alan reported. The second and third ships fired in sequence. More green beams hammered against the shields. 71%, 64%. Jack and Lisa exchanged worried glances. The shields were dropping too quickly. Q cannons fully charged, Alan announced. Target the lead vessel. Montgomery ordered. Fire! From the underside of the Dauntless, a strange weapon emerged. Not a conventional cannon, but a series of interlocking rings that began to spin rapidly. The rings glowed with a blue-white light, and then a beam of pure white energy shot forth, hitting the lead Vrul ship dead center. There was no explosion. No dramatic destruction. Instead, the Vrul ship simply changed. Its form seemed to waver, as if reality itself was uncertain about its existence. Then, in a ripple of light, the front third of the massive vessel simply ceased to exist. The atoms that had composed it scattered into random patterns. On the Seeker, Commander Cole and her crew stared in shock. What kind of weapon is that? The science officer whispered. The two remaining Vrul ships halted their advance, clearly just as surprised by what had happened to their companion. Quantum destabilization cannon, Captain Montgomery explained, her voice carrying over the open channel between the ships. It disrupts matter at the subatomic level, causing atoms to lose cohesion with one another. That's impossible, Cole said. Even our most advanced research stations haven't managed to weaponize quantum field manipulation on that scale. Montgomery's smile was grim. As your officer said, we're just an old relic. The Vrul ships began to turn, preparing to flee. They're retreating, Peter Kelly reported. Let them go, Montgomery ordered. Let them tell the others what they found. Here. She turned to Jack. I think it's time we had a longer conversation about the current state of the galaxy, Commander, and about humanity's place in it. Jack nodded slowly, still processing what he had just witnessed. I believe the Confederation Council will be very interested in meeting you, Captain. And I them, Montgomery replied. But first, we have a crew to fully awaken and a mission to complete. What mission? Lisa asked. Montgomery exchanged glances with Alan Murphy before answering. To find the other 11 ships like the Dauntless that were sent out. Because if they survived like we did, then humanity isn't as defeated as the Vrul believe, Jack finished, understanding dawning on his face. Exactly, Montgomery said, a spark of hope in her eyes for the first time since awakening. The old relics are stirring from their sleep, and the galaxy isn't ready for what comes next. 3 days after the encounter with the Vrul ships, the USS Dauntless and the Confederation vessel Seeker traveled together through space. The Dauntless moved with surprising speed for its size and age, its engines humming with power that defied the expectations of the Confederation officers. On the Dauntless's observation deck, Captain Montgomery stood with Commander Cole of the Seeker. Through the large windows, they watched stars streak by as both ships moved at high warp. Your ship continues to surprise me, Cole admitted. The power output alone should be impossible for a vessel of this age. Montgomery smiled slightly. The Dauntless was built with technology that was classified even in my time. Only 12 ships were ever made with these specifications. And you believe the other 11 are still out there? After all this time? I have to believe it, Montgomery said firmly. Each ship was sent in a different direction, with different mission parameters but the same standing orders. Maintain radio silence, investigate potential threats, and preserve human knowledge and culture. Cole nodded thoughtfully. Arcs disguised as warships. Or warships disguised as arcs, Montgomery countered. Either way, they represent humanity's best hope now. The door to the observation deck slid open. Jack Harlow entered with Chief Engineer, Alan Murphy, and several data tablets. Captain, Jack said, we've completed our analysis of the Dauntless's star charts compared to current Confederation maps. We've identified possible locations for 3 of the missing ships. Alan spread the tablets out on a nearby table, displaying holographic star maps. Based on their last known trajectories and mission profiles, we believe the USS Defiant was headed toward the Cygnus Arm, the USS Intrepid toward the Perseus Arm, and the USS Valiant toward the Galactic Core. All regions now heavily contested by the Vrul, Cole noted grimly. Montgomery studied the maps. The Defiant should be our first target. Captain Kyle Anderson was a close friend, and his ship carried the most comprehensive weapons research data. The Cygnus arm is currently under Confederation protection, but the V-Rule test our borders regularly, Cole explained. If we take both our ships there, we risk drawing attention. Jack looked up from the maps. What if we split up? The Seeker could return to Confederation headquarters with news of the Dauntless while you head toward the Cygnus arm. Alone? Cole asked, alarmed. Even with those Q cannons, the Dauntless would be vulnerable against a Vrul fleet. We won't engage unless necessary, Montgomery assured her. The Dauntless was designed for stealth as well as combat. Hannah Kenny. Mask our energy signature. Alan nodded. And we're still awakening crew members. By tomorrow, we'll have a full complement of 200 personnel ready for duty. Cole still looked uncertain. The Confederation Council needs to know about this discovery. A human warship with technology that can effectively combat the Vrul could change the course of this conflict. Which is precisely why we need to find the other ships quickly, Montgomery insisted. Together they represent a force that could truly push back against the Vrul. Jack studied Captain Montgomery with newfound respect. In just 3 days, she had absorbed the devastating news about Earth's fall, adapted to a completely changed galaxy, and already formulated a plan to strike back. The resilience was remarkable. I'll go with the Dauntless, Jack suddenly offered. Cole looked at him in surprise. Commander, as a Confederation representative, Jack explained, I can provide current intelligence on V-Rule movements and help coordinate when we eventually return to Confederation space. After a moment's consideration, Cole nodded. Very well. I'll assign Lieutenant Graham to join you as well. Her expertise in xenolinguistics might prove useful if we encounter any of the other human vessels. Montgomery seemed pleased with this arrangement. We'll depart for the Cygnus arm in 12 hours then. Commander Cole, the Seeker should leave for Confederation headquarters immediately. The sooner your council knows about us, the better. As they finalized their plans, elsewhere on the Dauntless, Lisa Graham was in the ship's massive library section with Dr. Karen Porter. Unlike most of the ship, which was clearly designed for military purposes, the library was warm and inviting, with real paper books lining physical shelves. This is incredible, Lisa said, running her fingers along the spines of books. Physical? Copies of so much human literature, history, science. Some of these works were thought to be lost forever when Earth fell. Dr. Porter nodded proudly. Each of the 12 ships carries a different selection of humanities knowledge. The Dauntless focused on scientific and engineering texts, but we also have extensive cultural works. Lisa pulled a book from the shelf, a collection of poetry. When the Vrul attacked Earth, they specifically targeted cultural centers, universities, and data repositories. They seemed to understand that destroying a civilization's knowledge was as effective as destroying its people. Which is why these ships are so important, Dr. Porter explained. We're not just warships, we're the memory of Earth. She led Lisa deeper into the library, to a secure room filled with unusual containers. These hold biological samples, seeds from Earth's plants, genetic material from animals, even human genetic diversity. Lisa's eyes widened. You really were planning for the worst. Those who designed the Dauntless program saw farther than most, Porter said quietly. They anticipated that humanity might face an existential threat. These ships were their insurance policy. Meanwhile, in the ship's engineering section, Zalthrax stood with Alan Murphy, watching human engineers work on the Q cannon systems. Still don't understand how this technology works, the Mardarian admitted. Quantum destabilization on this scale shouldn't be possible with your era's understanding of physics. Alan gave him a sideways glance. Who said it was our era's understanding? The Q cannon design came from somewhere else. Zalthrax's breathing slits flared with surprise. You're saying humans had contact with another advanced civilization? Before the Confederation? I'm saying that humanity found something out there, Alan replied carefully. Something that changed our understanding of physics. The 12 ships were sent out partly to investigate the source further. Before Zalthrax could press for more information, the ship's alert system activated. Hannah's voice came over the intercom. All senior staff to the bridge immediately. On the bridge, Captain Montgomery and the others found Peter Kelly at the communications station. his expression a mixture of excitement and disbelief. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," he reported. "It's faint, heavily encrypted, but Hannah was able to decode it. It's using a United Earth-Navy emergency frequency." Montgomery's eyes widened. "Source?" "Coming from within the Cygnus arm," Kelly said. "Approximately 3 light-years from our planned search area." "Let's hear it," Montgomery ordered. The speakers crackled with static before a voice broke through. "This is Captain Maria Rivera of the USS Defiant, broadcasting on Emergency Channel Sierra 9. Any UEN vessels, please respond. We have awakened from emergency cryosleep to find ourselves in an unfamiliar situation. Our long-range scans show evidence of widespread conflict. Requesting information and assistance." The bridge fell silent. Captain Montgomery's face broke into the first genuine smile Jack had seen from her. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Tell Captain Rivera that the USS Dauntless is coming, and we have one hell of a story to tell her." The USS Dauntless dropped out of warp speed near the edge of the Cygnus arm. The ship's sensors immediately began scanning for signs of the USS Defiant. Captain Montgomery stood on the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back as she watched the main view screen intently. "Any sign of Vril activity in this sector?" she asked. Peter Kelly checked his readings. "Nothing immediate, Captain, but long-range scans show heavy Vril presence about 2 light-years from here. They appear to be engaged with Confederation forces." Jack Harlow frowned. "That's the Tau Ceti defensive line. If the Vril break through there, they'll have a clear path to 3 major Confederation worlds." Captain Montgomery nodded grimly. "Then we'd better find the Defiant quickly. Hannah, continue broadcasting on the UN emergency frequency." "Signal transmitted, Captain," the AI replied. "Awaiting response." They didn't have to wait long. Within minutes, a reply came through. "This is USS Defiant to USS Dauntless. We have your position. Approaching at half impulse. Expect visual contact in 3 minutes." True to their word, 3 minutes later, a ship similar to the Dauntless appeared on their sensors. It was another Valiant-class vessel, though its hull showed more battle damage than the Dauntless. "They're hailing us," Kelly reported. "On screen," Montgomery ordered. The view screen changed to show a woman with short black hair and determined eyes. She wore the same style of United Earth-Navy uniform as Montgomery's crew. "Captain Eliza Montgomery," the woman said with visible relief. "It's really you. When we picked up your signal, I almost couldn't believe it." "Captain Maria Rivera," Montgomery replied warmly. "It's good to see the Defiant survived. We have much to discuss. Request permission to come aboard with a small team." Rivera nodded. "Granted, our docking bay is operational, and Eliza, you'd better prepare yourself. We've made some interesting discoveries of our own." An hour later, Captain Montgomery, Jack, Lisa, and Alan boarded the Defiant. They were met in the docking bay by Captain Rivera and her first officer, a tall man named Frank Williams. "Welcome aboard," Rivera said, shaking hands with each of them. She paused at Jack and Lisa, noting their different uniforms. "And these are?" "Commander Jack Harlow and Lieutenant Lisa Graham of the Galactic Confederation," Montgomery explained. "A lot has changed since we went into cryosleep, Maria. Earth is gone." Rivera's expression remained calm. "We know. We awakened 6 months ago when our sensors detected a major battle nearby. We've been observing, learning about this new galaxy while staying hidden." As they walked through the Defiant's corridors, Jack noticed subtle differences from the Dauntless. The layout was similar, but some of the technology appeared even more advanced. They arrived at the ship's conference room, where several other Defiant officers waited. But there was also someone else, a being that was clearly not human. It stood nearly 7 feet tall with pale blue skin and 4 arms, each ending in 6-fingered hands. "This is Sentinel," Rivera introduced the alien, "and this is why I said you should prepare yourself." The alien being inclined its head. "Greetings, Captain Montgomery. I have long anticipated meeting the commander of another seed vessel." Montgomery stared in shock. "What is this? Who are you?" Rivera gestured for everyone to sit. "Sentinel belongs to a species called the Preservers. They're the ones who provided us with the quantum technology for our ships." "The Preservers," Alan whispered. The mysterious benefactors. I thought they were just a myth. Not a myth, Sentinel said. My people have existed for millions of years. We travel the galaxy, identifying species with potential and helping them survive extinction events. Jack leaned forward. You knew the Vril would attack Earth? We knew it was likely, Sentinel explained. The Vril have destroyed 17 other civilizations before yours. They fear competition. When we detected their scout ships near Earth 100 years ago, we contacted your leaders secretly. Montgomery looked at Rivera. And this is why the 12 ships were built. Rivera nodded. Each ship carries different aspects of human knowledge, culture, and technology. Each was given a preserver quantum core that powers the Q cannons and other systems, and each was assigned a different sector to investigate. The preservers couldn't directly intervene, Sentinel added. Our ancient laws forbid it, but we could provide the means for humanity to save itself. Lisa spoke up. But if you've been awake for 6 months, why didn't you contact any Confederation? Worlds? They could have helped you. Because we've been busy, Rivera said with a small smile. Show them, Frank. The first officer activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed a star map with 12 blinking lights scattered across the galaxy. These are the 12 ships, he explained. We've been working to reactivate the quantum network that connects them. So far, we've managed to locate all 12 and confirm that 7 are still intact with crews in cryosleep. 7 plus us and you makes 9, Montgomery calculated quickly. What about the other 3? Rivera's expression darkened. The Valiant and the Fearless were destroyed. The Enterprise is damaged, but its crew survived on a nearby planet. We've been in contact with them. Jack stared at the map in amazement. 9 advanced human warships. With this kind of firepower, we could turn the tide against the Vril. That's the plan, Rivera confirmed. But there's more. She nodded to Sentinel. The alien touched the holographic display, and it zoomed out to show a massive structure hidden in deep space. This is the Nexus, a preserver sanctuary and scientific outpost. We've been gathering the human ships there, awakening their crews, and preparing. Preparing for what? Montgomery asked. To reclaim what was lost, Sentinel said simply. To end the Vril threat once and for all. Allen looked skeptical. Even with 9 ships, we're outnumbered. The Vril have hundreds of warships. Rivera smiled. True, but their ships don't have preserver quantum cores, and they don't have this. She pressed a button, and a viewing port opened in the conference room wall. Beyond the Defiant, they could now see hundreds of ships of various designs gathered around what appeared to be a massive space station. We've been busy making friends, Rivera explained. Species who have suffered under the Vril, refugees who lost their homes, warriors seeking revenge. They've been gathering here for months. Jack recognized ships from a dozen different Confederation races, along with others he'd never seen before. This is an armada. The Vril think they destroyed humanity, Rivera said, her voice firm with conviction. They think the old relics of Earth are just dusty memories. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Montgomery stood and faced her old friend. Maria, when we left Earth, we were explorers with defensive capabilities. What you're proposing is a full-scale war. Earth is gone, Eliza, Rivera said quietly. Our colonies are gone. All we have left is each other and these ships. But with them, we have a chance not just to survive, but to take back what was ours and ensure the Vril never destroy another civilization. Montgomery was silent for a long moment. Then she extended her hand. The Dauntless stands with you. As they shook hands, Jack looked at the assembled fleet through the viewport. The old relics are awake, he murmured, and the galaxy will never be the same. In the distance, the ships of a dozen species began to move into formation around the quay. 2 human vessels, the vanguard of a fleet that would soon carry humanity's vengeance to the stars.